All right, let's connect two things that you probably wouldn't put in the same sentence: a central bank's cash policy and a country's violent crime rate. Because today, we're diving into a source that tells an incredible story. It's about how controlling physical cash in Nigeria, of all things, became this surprisingly powerful weapon against kidnapping and terrorism. And believe me, the results were pretty dramatic.
So, let's start with a really tough question. How do you stop a kidnapper? You know, your first thoughts probably go to the usual stuff, right? Guns, spies, maybe the army. But what if the real weapon, the most effective tool in the fight, was something completely different?
Well, that's exactly the big, kind of counterintuitive idea we're exploring today. The source we're breaking down argues that the best way to fight these criminals isn't with a bullet or a bomb, but by taking away their cash. Literally, the most powerful tool was sitting right inside the central bank. Okay, so to really get why this worked, we have to understand the core problem first. You see, for years and years, organized crime in Nigeria wasn't just a security problem. No, it was an economic one, and it was built on one very, very specific thing. And that thing is what our source calls the ransom economy. I mean, just think about it for a second. The whole business of kidnapping for ransom, it only works if you can actually get paid, right? And for a long time, that meant criminals could demand and collect huge sums of physical cash. We're talking millions of naira, stuff it into bags, and just vanish. That's why major highways like the infamous Abuja-Kaduna Road became absolute death traps. The entire criminal enterprise ran on cold, hard, untraceable cash. So, what happens when you decide to just turn off that tap of cash? Well, back in late 2022, the previous administration decided to find out. They launched this, honestly, pretty radical policy to see what would happen. The plan itself was pretty simple, but boy, was it aggressive. First, they redesigned the Naira notes, which forced everybody to trade in their old cash. But here's the kicker. They also put super strict limits on how much cash anyone, and I mean anyone, could withdraw from the bank. The goal here wasn't just about going digital. It was a direct attack on crime, designed to make it almost impossible for these guys to get their hands on large amounts of physical money. And the results? They were almost immediate, and honestly, just staggering. According to the source we're looking at, the whole kidnapping for ransom industry didn't just slow down, it basically collapsed. We're talking reports of victims being let go simply because their captors couldn't get the cash. Those bandits that used to control the highways? Gone. There were even stories of criminals getting arrested when they tried to swap their old, illegal cash, and people finding huge bags of money just abandoned. They couldn't use it. And this wasn't just, some statistic in a report. The source really makes it clear that for that short period, life actually changed for people. They could drive on roads that they had been terrified to use for years. Whole communities that lived in fear started to feel normal again. It really, truly felt like a breakthrough. But then, it all changed. That incredible period of peace, it came to a sudden and very violent end. So what happened? Well, after the 2023 election, the new administration came in, and among a bunch of other policy changes, the strict cashless policy, it got relaxed. The withdrawal limits were eased up, and just like that, physical cash started flooding back into the system. The top was turned right back on. The consequences hit fast, and the contrast, it couldn't be more clear. You go from this period of real peace and safety to absolute chaos the moment cash became easy to get again. Kidnappings exploded. The bandits were back on the highways. All those amazing security gains were just gone, wiped out. So here's the number one takeaway from the source. When you look at the peaceful period in early 2023, and then the violence that came right after, what was the one big thing that really changed? Just one thing. Access to physical cash. Okay, so given how clear that connection seems to be, the source doesn't just stop at pointing out the problem. It actually lays out a pretty direct roadmap for how to get back to that peace. It's basically a 5-step plan. First, bring back those strict cash limits. Seems obvious, right? Second, make it a rule that any ransom payments have to be electronic, so they can be traced. Third, use tech to keep a close eye on cash moving around in those high-risk states. Fourth, and this one's interesting, offer a short window for criminals to turn in their illegal cash. And finally, number 5, link up the financial and national ID systems, the BVN and NIN, so you can spot and flag weird transactions as they happen. It's a full-on strategy to basically starve the criminal economy. And really, the whole thing boils down to one powerful idea. You don't have to chase down every single bandit if you can just wreck their entire business model. You make their number one tool, that physical cash, so dangerous and inconvenient for them to handle that it becomes a weakness, not a strength. So, as we wrap this up, the source leaves us with this really powerful thought. It suggests there is a tool that has already been proven to work, a way to bring back peace that's just sitting there. The blueprint is on the table. So the only real question left is the will to act on it there?